Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're looking at what is honestly the ultimate accounting fork in the road. When a company spends a dollar, does it get capitalized or does it get expensed? If you're prepping for your accounting exams right now, you absolutely have to nail this concept. It literally dictates the entire flow of numbers through the financial statements, impacting everything from your inventory valuation to your final operating income.
Real quick, before we get into the weeds, here's our roadmap for today's session. We'll start with the cost accounting crossroads, define our terms, track the financial flow, highlight some super common exam mistakes you'll want to avoid, and finally, set you up for advanced costing. We are laser focused on exactly what you need to master for test day. All right, section 1, the cost accounting crossroads. We're starting with this foundational piece because how you classify a cost right out of the gate completely dictates its journey through the financials. Imagine, for a second, a single dollar leaving a manufacturer's bank account. Picture the actual physical layout of the business. Does that dollar travel out to the factory floor to pay for raw materials and assembly workers? Or does it go straight up to the corporate office to pay for sales and administration? Figuring out that physical destination is the key to unlocking how we treat the cost. To answer that, let's move to section 2, defining product and period costs. Basically, there are two distinct paths a cost can take, and it's based entirely on a manufacturing versus non-manufacturing framework. First up, we've got product costs, which you'll also hear called inventoriable costs. These are costs traced directly to the manufacturing process itself. Think about a welder's hourly wages, or the actual sheet metal they're welding to build heavy equipment. Because these costs are actively building an asset, your inventory, they get capitalized. That means they land right on the balance sheet first. They only become an expense, specifically cost of goods sold, when that piece of inventory is actually sold to a customer.
On the flip side, we have period costs. These are your non-manufacturing or operating costs. If our dollar went to pay a CEO's salary, or maybe to cover sales commissions for actually selling the product, that's a period cost. These costs are completely excluded from inventory. Instead, they get expensed directly on the income statement in the exact same period they're incurred.
This really highlights the core difference. Product costs take a detour. They essentially park on the balance sheet as an asset, sometimes for months at a time, before finally moving over to the income statement as an expense when a sale happens. Period costs, they take the express lane. They go straight to the income statement, immediately dropping that period's income.
So the crucial takeaway here is knowing exactly which buckets these common costs fall into for your exams. Over in the product cost bucket, you've got your direct materials, your direct labor, and your manufacturing overhead. And remember, that overhead includes indirect stuff like factory utilities or depreciation on factory equipment. Over on the period cost bucket, it is strictly your selling and administrative expenses. Keep those two buckets separated in your head and you're going to be in great shape. Let's keep rolling with section 3, tracking the financial flow. We know the definitions now, so let's track how a product cost physically moves through a manufacturer's pretty complex inventory stages. Think of the balance sheet as a sort of waiting room for your product costs. Now, unlike a regular retailer who just has one simple inventory account, a manufacturer actually has 3 stages in this waiting room. Step 1, the cost sits in raw materials. Step 2, as the product is being built, the cost moves to work in process. Step 3, once it's completely finished, it waits in finished goods. It's only at step 4, when the customer actually buys the item, that the cost finally graduates from the balance sheet and hits the income statement as cost of goods sold. Period costs, meanwhile, completely bypass that balance sheet waiting room. Think about a massive marketing campaign. It doesn't sit in a work in process account. It just hits the income statement the very period it happens, regardless of whether you sold one single unit or 1 million units that month. Okay, section 4, avoiding common exam mistakes. Understanding the flow is great, but let's look at the specific traps candidates always seem to fall into when they're sweating it out on test day. Pay really close attention to this one. It is incredibly common for test takers to accidentally lump an administrative expense, let's say depreciation on the corporate headquarters building, into inventory. If you do that, you'll completely wreck your cost of goods manufactured and cost of goods sold calculations. Just remember, if it doesn't happen in the factory, it is not a product cost, period. And here's another vital tip. For external reporting under GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, your product costs absolutely must absorb all manufacturing costs. We know this applies to variable costs like factory supplies, but it is equally true for fixed factory overhead. So real estate taxes on the factory, Insurance on the factory floor, depreciation on the assembly line equipment, those are all product costs. They have to be capitalized into inventory, even though they're fixed costs that don't change based on how much you produce.
Which brings us right into Section 5, Setup for Advanced Costing. Nailing this basic flow between product and period costs isn't just for the easy introductory questions. It's the absolute prerequisite for tackling advanced cost accounting on your exams.
When you inevitably get into studying absorption versus variable costing, the entire difference between those two methods boils down to this exact topic. Specifically, it's about how you treat fixed manufacturing overhead. Under absorption costing, which you need for external reporting, fixed overhead is treated as a product cost. It's inventoriable. But under variable costing, which managers use internally, fixed overhead is treated as a period cost and expensed immediately. And wow, that single distinction is massive. It changes your inventory valuation, your cost of goods sold, and ultimately your operating income. Think back to our waiting room analogy for a second. If a company produces more goods than it actually sells in a year under absorption costing, some of those fixed overhead costs get trapped in that ending inventory waiting room on the balance sheet. Because those costs haven't hit the income statement yet, it temporarily inflates the company's operating income compared to variable costing, where all those fixed costs are expensed instantly.
So, I'll leave you with this final kind of provocative thought for your next study session. Think about how these accounting rules might actually influence human behavior. Like if you were a manager and your year-end bonus was tied to operating income under absorption costing, couldn't you just ramp up production, build a massive stockpile of inventory, and artificially hide a bunch of your fixed costs right there on the balance sheet? It's a pretty fascinating look at how the line between product and period costs does so much more than just balance the books. It can actually drive real-world business decisions. Keep that in your back pocket as you review, and hey, good luck with your studying.